Welcome to the Writer Groupie podcast. I'm Kim Smith, the writing guru, bringing you discussions, insights, and insider details on planning, producing, promoting, and profiting as a writer. This is a podcast by writers for writers. You can find out more about Writer Groupie at www.writergroupie.net. And here's the next episode of Writer Groupie. Hey everybody, and welcome to episode 61 of Writer Groupie. I am fast at work on my new segment, you guys, called Writer Groupie Podcast, The Writing Guru. You're going to get an opportunity to see me in action as I talk about writing technique and things that new writers want to know. I was contacted by some aspiring authors who said, we want a Facebook group for writers who are writing their first novel. So I started that. You can go out to Facebook and you can check out that group. It's called Writing the First Novel. If you're interested, I would love to have you in that group. I'm also going to be doing those same similar type of things in the Writing Guru segments, which are coming very soon. You know, it's summertime. It's just really busy at the Smith household. So we're trying to get some stuff accomplished and to bring you some interesting segments. But tonight on episode 61, my guest is Michael J. Bowler. Michael's an author. He's a retired educator, and he's also a mentor for young folks. He writes teen fiction. And I'm going to get him on our show right now. Michael, welcome.
Thank you, Kim. I'm very happy to be here.
You know, I love talking to writers. I'm the epitome of a writer groupie. And so we met through social media, and I was really excited because I don't get a lot of young adult / teen fiction authors on the show. So I was really excited to have you on. I want for you to tell our listeners and viewers the journey of Michael Bowler, the author. Tell us all about how you got started writing and all about your books and what you've gotten written and what you're working on. Just tell us it all.
Okay. Well, I would have to say I've been probably interested in writing since I was a child. And as I thought back on it, I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that I have been hard of hearing my whole life and did not have hearing aids when I was a child. And it made social interaction with big groups, sports, and other things very, very difficult. It was something I shied away from. So I think it turned me inward into my imagination. It got me thinking of stories. And I loved reading anyway, and I loved movies. And so I was always writing little short stories when I was a kid growing up. And always had it back in my mind, I wanted to be a writer someday and write books and publish books that would move me and touch me the way I had been touched by authors. So that's kind of where it started, but, you know, reality kind of changes things. I went to college. After that, I went to film school, and I thought, okay, I'd like to get involved in filmmaking, especially screenwriting. I thought, okay, I love writing. And that might be a good, entree into writing. And so I learned the art of screenwriting, wrote a number of screenplays, made some extremely low budget, pretty forgettable horror movies, but, you can find them. They're available on YouTube and other places. But and wrote other screenplays and then attempted to interest someone in the industry in my screenplays. That didn't work. And I could go on stories with that. I even climbed over the wall to Burbank Studios one time and tried to find some producer's office and never found it. So I'm lucky I didn't get arrested, I suppose. But anyway, so in the meantime, I also got a teaching credential in English because that was my other love is working with kids, and I've always liked working with kids. So I was teaching high school. So that kind of put writing on the back burner. But as I still was doing writing along the way. So over the course of teaching for 25 years and working with teenagers and young adults, real young adults, meaning college kids, not high school.
Yeah.
They are not young adults until they turn 18, but I've worked with both genres and middle school kids. That was the genre I wanted to really write, was books for teenagers, because I felt like I knew them best. Because I worked with them like 24/7, either at the high school. I did volunteer work at the YMCA. I was working with kids in the weight room, coaching them on weight training. I've been a big brother, if you know that program, the Big Brothers Big Sisters program. where in this case a boy who does not have a father at home is matched to a mentor, a volunteer. So I'm my 8th little brother during this, since I was in my 20s. And then I've also been for 30 years volunteering with kids at juvenile hall and the entire juvenile justice system. So you can see my expertise is really kids, young people, teenagers.
That is so awesome. That is so awesome because we need more of you in the world. I'm just telling you, there's just not enough of good people that want to work with kids out there, and there's so many kids that are so deserving and in such need for a good mentor. Since you are a person with a disability and always have had all of your life, does that play into some of the themes in your books?
Yes, it played into real life. It was interesting that as a child growing up, I did not know another kid, even close to my age, who was hard of hearing until after I got out of college. And I joined the Big Brothers program, and they told me, well, we have this new program for hard of hearing kids, and we try to find a mentor who's hard of hearing, and you would be perfect for that. So they paired me up with a 14-year-old who at that point I was about 10 years older than him. He was the closest person to my age that I had ever met who was hard of hearing. Wow. And so when it was revelatory, it really was. So when I started teaching general ed English, just in a regular classroom. But then I did a lot of substituting in special ed classes where I worked with kids that had learning disabilities. And I'd never known anybody with a learning disability. But so many of those disabilities, like auditory processing, is very much like being hard of hearing. I could relate to those kids. I could understand them. I knew where they were coming from. And I thought, this is what I want to do. I want to work with these kids. So then I had to go back to school and get credential for teaching with learning disabilities. But I did that. And and so I worked with those kids so well. One of my books in particular, I'll hold it up, is called Spinner. It came out last summer.
Move closer to the screen so we can see that cover.
It came out last.
That way. There you go. Right there. Very
came out
good.
Last summer in August. And it's a horror thriller mystery for high school kids. And all of the protagonists are disabled. So they all have a disability of one kind or another, and they're based on some of the disabilities that kids that I worked with had. The main character's in a wheelchair, and they all have a learning disability, or there's autism, and they're the heroes of the story. They have to solve the mystery. They have to save the day, as it were. Because I really wanted to show that these kinds of kids do have value. You know, we tend to look down on those kids. I mean, I'm sorry to say it, but we do. We think in this country that if kids do not go to college, get some kind of college degree, they are of no value. And they aren't. Some of these kids were the best kids I ever worked with, the most decent and honorable, good character. They are and will do good things in life. So I just wanted to show them for how they really are, so that the readers who maybe never met any special ed kids might have some idea.
That's just fascinating and wonderful, because, like I said, there's just not enough good, devoted adults who want to make differences in children's lives these days. And I'm not saying that it's not from a lack of interest necessarily. I just think that we're an awfully busy society, and a lot of people that could mentor probably don't, because they're just so busy. They've got jobs, and they've got family, and they've got careers, and whatever have you. And so for you to be able to take that love and that ability and to fit it into your busy life, I mean, you've been an educator, you've been an author, you've done a lot of things in your life, and for you to be able to fit that in is very, very commendable. So tell us some more about the writing life. How do you write one of your books? What is your process for writing?
Well, it's interesting. As I started out, the book a second book I put out, and the third, and then also that one I just held up, Spinner, are all based on screenplays I had previously written when I was attempting to get into the screenwriting business. And I had written one book called A Boy and His Dragon, and it was about 1970s up in a small town in San Rafael, and there's this 13-year-old who finds a dragon egg and hatches. Oddly enough, there's a remake, I guess, of Pete's Dragon coming out, this Disney film, and I never saw the animated one. But when I watched the trailer for the new one, I'm thinking, boy, that's a lot like my book, because the kid's trying to hide the dragon and keep it a secret, which is what my character was trying to do. So I wrote that. It took me a long time while I was working and teaching, and I finally self-published it in 2011. And I didn't know anything about self-publishing. I knew nothing at all, and so it really didn't go anywhere. But I knew nothing about promotion. And the second book that I put out was called A Matter of Time, and that would be considered new adult because the main characters are actually young adults from 18 up. They're college students. And I self-published that because it relates to Titanic, and so I put it out in 2012 for the sinking of the Titanic anniversary. And it did a little bit better. I had a little bit more knowledge of blog tours and so on, but so I ended up, it didn't really go anywhere either, and so this year it is out again. It's currently on tour because I got a new cover put on it and revised it, and it's on audio. So that book I'm trying to kind of promote. But normally I get an idea and I just let it gestate for a while I'm at the gym or I'm in the car, and I'm just thinking about it, and I'm thinking of a character or a situation, and scenes play out in my mind, and I think it's because of my filmmaking experience. I tend to see the story unfolding in my head.
I've heard a lot of people say that. I think that's part of the writer's psyche sometimes, because I feel that way also, and I've heard a lot of people say that reading a book, it's like they were watching a movie play off in their head.
Is that how you come up with some of your stories?
Yeah. I mean, fortunately or unfortunately, I do shoot video, and so I have done independent films, and so yeah, kind of, sort of. It makes it come alive for you before the words ever hit the page. When you can, you're thinking about it, and you actually see it happen in your head, and you're like, yeah, that's it, and you hit the keyboard. So I definitely identify with that. My question is, how in the world do you go from a screenplay to a book? Is that difficult? Is that a hard process?
It can be. We talk about how sometimes a movie based on a book is not very good and doesn't capture what is in the book. I mean, you know that. It happens all the time. But it's such a totally different medium. But the one thing, and I wrote a blog post about this for some teenagers on a teenage website called Lit Pit, because they were interested in screenwriting. But the one thing that needs to be the same is visualization. The reader has to visualize what's on the page, what's happening. Just like when you write a screenplay, you've got to visualize everything. You can't show what's inside somebody's head. So you've got to somehow make an action on screen that indicates to the audience what the character is thinking or feeling or whatever they're doing. And that's why you see so many actors, they're always smoking or doing things with their hands to show that they're nervous or they're anxious. It's just a way to have to get it across. So it's definitely different but I would say it's a little easier to adapt the script to book form because you have the dialogue already, and now you're really just fleshing out the action and in some ways those thoughts, those inner feelings of the character. It's trickier the other way around.
Yeah, I would think you would be right, because you think about how you've got it all so precise on the page. Every detail is there, sensually, eye, touch, smell, taste, whatever. But when you go to put that into the screen, you can't do all that. It's an action. You're absolutely right. The actor has to perform what the page is. I can't describe it. You know what I'm saying. So that may be the very reason why I've never tried to turn any of my books into screenplays, is because it would be just really difficult. I think it would be easier to write a screenplay than to write a book, because you know what the action is and the dialogue is, and that's really all you need. A lot of actors don't want a lot of instruction. They want to be able to be the character and bring out the nuance that the character brings on the page with their own activity. So it's really an interesting dynamic. It really is. And so you're writing a screenplay. You wrote these screenplays. They were intended to be for youth. The screenplays you wrote originally.
Well, they were just intended to be what I thought would be like, popular movie. Like The Spinner would be like for the horror film crowd, and probably the biggest of the drama one I wrote was Children of the Night, that I turned into a book that became a whole series. And that's kind of an urban fantasy. It has a fantasy element to it, but it's primarily a kind of a gritty urban drama. And again, they were just, and maybe this is probably my biggest failing as a writer, perhaps. I don't think specific genre all the time. As I mentioned, a story will come to me. Characters will come to me, or there'll be people that I've known in life, and I say, I want to make a character based on that person, and there's a story. So I tend to mash up genres all the time, and agents don't like that, publishers don't like that, and I guess maybe readers don't like that either, because it's very hard.
Some people do.
Well, I do. I
do too.
Yeah, do you? Good, because I personally just don't want to read the same thing over and over again. I don't want the next 15,000 Twilights. One Twilight was fine. But you understand what I'm saying. I don't want. But so I'm not good at saying I'm going to do a genre piece in this genre, and it's going to be exactly only a mystery. Because it probably won't. It'll probably have something else. I hope eventually. None of my stuff has really caught on yet, but it's trickier to market it when there's sort of cross genres. But and I would have to say that's an area I'm still very weak at, is the marketing. That's the hardest part. And I know you're self-published, and so you have to do all the marketing yourself. It's a huge learning curve. It's very tricky.
Yeah, I have to say, in the world of indie publishing / self-publishing, whatever your preference on that is, a lot of people don't like to call it self-publishing. They'd rather call it indie publishing. But to me, indie publishing still belongs to a publishing company who is not using the guidelines of traditional publishing. So it's either whatever you want to call it. When you do it yourself, we'll just say that, everything falls on you. Everything from the cover art to the editing to the proofreading to the marketing to the writing to the everything belongs to you. It's your responsibility to do it or to get it done. And it's hard. It's hard work. It really, truly is. I won't argue that point whatsoever. But you know what? I think it's kind of fulfilling. When you see all that come together to fruition and it's up for sale on a distribution center site, and you see your work out there, it's fulfilling. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. So you are also self-published / indie published. What do you think is your strength? We talked about marketing. Marketing is your weakness, you feel like, and I feel like that too. I think we all feel like marketing is our weak spot, because none of us is, a marketer by trade or by preference. We just have to do it, but we don't really like it, really. So what is your strong point?
Well, I think my strong point is my storytelling. I think I do come up with some very interesting stories, and they're stories that are very human. They challenge the reader as well as the characters to engage a lot of emotion and to really be invested, I think, in what's happening. And I think I also am very good at capturing the way kids talk, especially in the teenage world. I've been humbled to be complimented by that in a few reviews. They said, finally, here's a book aimed at teenagers where the teenagers don't talk like adults. Personally, I hate that. I really hate middle school books, and they talk like they're 35 years old. Clearly, the author has not been around middle school kids and doesn't know how they talk. So I think that is a strong point of me. I do listen to the way kids talk. I work with them every day still, and I try to replicate the way that they speak. But I also do it in the way that I narrate the story if it's from their point of view. Now, I have to say, while I think of that as a strength because it's authentic, agents do not like that. They have not liked my writing at all because, for example, if my narrator is a 15-year-old boy, he's not going to use flowery language. He's not going to use a lot of fancy metaphors because he's a 15-year-old boy.
Yeah.
So they'll say, well, your writing just isn't engaging to me. And what my response, I would love to say back to them, but I'm not rude, I wouldn't do it, is, but is it engaging to your 15-year-old son?
Excuse me.
Could you show it to 15 and 16-year-old boys and see what they think, get their opinion? But I don't ever say that. But, so again, I think of it as a strength, they think of it as a weakness.
Well, and to me, I've written young adult. I've got a young adult fantasy time travel out there, and I think dialogue for young adults, for somebody that is not a young adult, is difficult. So if you've mastered that and you're getting complimented by your reading public on that, congratulations, because it's not an easy feat by any stretch of the imagination. And I think sometimes the big houses, the publishing companies, and the agents, they want for all books to be a little, I'll call it whitewashed, insofar as they want for anybody of any age to be able to read it and be entertained, I guess, because there was so many adults that got involved in like the Harry Potter series, which was written for, middle school to high schoolers, and so many adults just took it and ran with it, and they feel like, that it could happen at any point with a book. And so maybe they try and give it a reading level value so far as the writing is concerned, with the word usage and the dialogue and so forth. But, that again is one of the privileges of being indie/self-published, is you can do it however you want to. You don't have anybody telling you how to do it. You do it how you want to do it. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No, that's true.
Now, I haven't been asking many of my authors about goals, but I'm going to start doing this because I think goal setting for writers is very, very important. And so now I got to ask you, what would be a goal for you in the next 5 years? What would you like to see yourself accomplish in the next 5 years, so far as your writing life, or screenplays, or just whatever the heart of Michael Bowler is right now?
Well, I have several plans. I've actually written I have two completed novels that this new one is in the second round of edits, so we'll have one more with an editor. I actually have an editor looking at it, because even though I'm very good at editing, I want to get someone to go through it and give me feedback. And so I'm still attempting to engage an editor or even one of the bigger publishing houses. The main reason being is that, and I don't know how well your own YA book did, but it's been my experience, all my books are for teenagers, and self-publishing and even small publishers like Publish Spinner cannot get reviewed by school library journal or the bigger journals that school librarians and regular public librarians look at. So if kids don't know my books are out there, whether they like them or not is a moot point. They don't know that they're there because librarians don't know that they're there. It's very hard to get librarians to look at something. I've even offered to give them my book for free. Oh, would you like a copy for your library? And they say, no, thank you. I don't know why. But so that's really one of my goals, is to really try to, with one of these books, and the third one is halfway written. Two of them are mysteries. One of them is action adventure kind of thing. And I'm going to try to engage an agent or get a quote bigger publisher who can get the book to the appropriate journals for review, because that I've just determined is really important.
It is.
On a personal level, I have been certified to be a foster to adopt parent. So I am in the next month or so, by this month or in August, we'll have a child placement.
How far out is that?
Maybe two if they have a brother, because I have room for two. So, and it could be younger kids, like between 5 and 10 years old. So that will be that will take up the majority of my time, obviously. I will be very busy doing that.
Well, congratulations in advance. That's wonderful news, and I know you're just thrilled to death.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm a little nervous. It's a big deal. I mean, as much as I work with kids all over off the years, it's a big deal. But you know, here in LA County, we have probably like 40,000 kids waiting for a home. You know, waiting for a foster home. That's a lot of kids. And as you mentioned, unfortunately, not enough people are willing to step up and help. And I admit, having gone through this process, I can kind of understand why they make you jump through more hoops than a circus animal. I mean, it's crazy what you have to do. And so anyway, but that's my long-term goals, I'd say, next few years.
That is awesome. And I hope for the next 5 years you just have the most fulfilled life of anybody I know, because I think that children really do that. And I think that these children might just give you some new inspiration for some new stories. We may see some younger protagonists come out of your fingertips. If you've getting some younger bodies all around you all the time, you may have a different outlook and may have some stories spring up from a place you didn't know existed.
No, exactly. In fact, I'm hoping I can convince them to help me write some children's books.
There you go. Yeah. Well, when you do that, I hope you'll come back on Writer Groupie, because that would be a fantastic show, have you and the kids as co-authors. How fun would that be? I would love it. All right, well, we're getting down to the last little bit of our show, and first of all, I want to say thank you so much for coming on. It's been fantastic. I've really, really enjoyed talking to you, and we do this every time, and we close up usually with some advice for an aspiring author. Tell an author out there who is working on their first novel some advice that you wish someone had given to you when you first got started.
Well, I would say almost the advice I would give to anybody with a dream is don't give up. You know, you have to complete that first draft. In fact, I'm working with a young author to be now and kind of advising him. And the goal is to kind of finish the first draft. And then even if you go back and you don't like it, read it over, revise it. There's something there that's good. There's always something there. And then don't give up on it and keep working and keep writing. And then I would also suggest that they try to become as savvy as they can on social media and promoting, so that they have some expertise in how to make people aware that their book is out there. But the main thing is to finish that draft, finish that first draft, because if you don't finish the first draft, you never get anywhere.
Well, it's been said before, you can't edit a blank page. Right. You have to have that first draft to have something to work with. A very good friend of mine, who is a very prolific author, has said that her first draft is like the synopsis of the story. Now she can write the book.
No, you know what? I agree with that, because there are always a lot of things that I'll find that, yes, I need to put in, that I left out and put it in. But again, it's getting that first draft. It took me a long time to do the first draft of the first book I did, because I was working, but I finished it. So that's step number one.
Yeah, that's great advice. Thank you so much for sharing that. Well, all right, well, tell us where we can find you online, because I'm sure my listeners and viewers are going to want to go out and check you out everywhere.
Well, thank you. Well, my name is Michael J. Bowler, and it has to have a J in there because there is another author named Michael Bowler who writes books about cars. No J. So my website is michaeljbowler.com. I'm also on YouTube, but that's under Michael Bowler because Google doesn't want me to use the J for some reason.
How confusing.
It is annoying. And then Google Plus is Michael Bowler because Google won't let me put a J in, and I've not figured out how to do that. I'm on Twitter. My Twitter handle is Bradley Wallace M, and that's only because that was my name would have had a huge number after it, and that was the name of the character in my first book. I'm on Facebook under Michael J. Bowler Author, and I'm on Tumblr under, what am I under there? I think it's just Michael J. Bowler on Tumblr. And so mostly if you Google Michael J. Bowler, you come up with a lot of links to me and my sites.
Yeah, you guys put the J in there, you'll find him, and I will have the links to all of his sites and his social media accounts on the blog post, which will be hosted at writergroupie.net. And if you haven't gone out and subscribed, you need to do that because I'm fixing to have these new episodes come in. I'm going to have these new segments, and you know you don't want to miss a single solitary one of them. And you don't want to miss this one coming with this guy here, Michael Bowler. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Michael. It has been a true pleasure. And I look forward to you coming back because I know you're going to have more work coming out. And these kids just might be the inspiration that we all need to hear from.
Well, thank you, Kim. It's been a pleasure. I've enjoyed meeting you and chatting with you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Writer Groupie. For booking information, show notes, and more, visit writergroupie.net.